All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Want to make sure that the live stream has begun and we started recording. And at this point, Stephanie, can you call the roll?
Yes. Inspector Ulmer?
Present.
Inspector Pritz?
Present.
Inspector Doris?
Present. Next up, due to the state declared COVID-19 emergency and the requirement for social distancing, this committee meeting shall be conducted virtually with no persons present at the district offices, noting that it is unfeasible to have anyone present at the district offices for the meeting. Can I have an action, please?
I move that the Finance Committee declares the COVID-19 emergency to be a bona fide emergency and authorize the committee meeting to proceed by audio and/or video conferencing.
And can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Stephanie, let's call the roll.
Okay. Inspector Pritz?
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer?
Aye.
Inspector Doris?
Aye. So we're going to turn it over to Dr. Rouse, who will begin the presentation for us today.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Tonight's presentation on the amended budget will be handled by Mrs. Mitchell. So we'll turn straight to her for that presentation.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rouse. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see everyone. Tonight, we will be discussing the amended budget and talking about some year-to-date items as well. So I wanted to take an opportunity to prepare an amended budget since so much has become more clear since the budget was approved in September of last year. Just a quick rundown of what will be discussed this evening. I'll start with a bit of recognition and celebration of the business office staff. I will briefly review the original budget and discuss some updates and highlights that have occurred since the original budget was approved, and then wrap up the presentation with an amended budget review. Next slide, please, John. All right, so let the recognition and celebration begin. This is a screenshot of our business office starting lineup. So I'll quickly tell you who everyone is, and then on the next slide, you'll see why I wanted to take this moment to celebrate. So the top left there is Sherry Bush. She is our coordinator of payroll. Next to Sherry is, of course, me. Then next to me is Elizabeth Shields. She is our internal auditor grants manager. The middle row to the left is Angelica Rush. She's our administrative secretary, who is also our benefits coordinator. Chandra Windsor is next to Angelica there in the middle row, Chandra's our payroll clerk. And then Deborah Brum is our bookkeeper. Last, but certainly not least, on the bottom row to the left is Angela Brown, our manager of accounting, and next to Angela is Miriam Vargas Castro, our accounts payable clerk. This team is responsible for keeping things moving for the district with all things business. And I am truly grateful for all of the work and all of the passion that they put into their work, all of their dedication. And I'm biased, but I do feel that Joliet 86 has the best business office team on the planet. Saying. Next slide, please. And so the reason I wanted to take a moment to have that recognition and celebration is because of this award here, the picture that you see of the award. This is an award presented by the Association of School Business Officials International. It is the Certificate of Excellence Award. The district has received this award for 37 consecutive years. This team, the current team that you saw, has carried on the longstanding tradition of excellence in financial reporting, and I could not be more proud of the work that all of them have done. Truly an amazing team. So some of them might be logged in right now. I know some couldn't log in for the evening because they had other commitments. So for those that are there watching this right now, thank you so very much for all that you do. And I am honored to be able to honor you in this way. Next slide, please, John. All right, now just a brief review of the original budget as approved in September. So the budget that was presented was balanced, which means all our revenues were projected to exceed expenditures. The estimated activity across all funds was forecasted to result in a surplus of just over $507,000 back in September. Excuse me, and then the estimated activity of just the educational, operations and maintenance, transportation, and the IMRF and Social Security funds was estimated to be result in a surplus of about $2.25 million. Next slide, please. And this slide is just a review of some key assumptions and facts from the original budget. I won't read this entire slide, but just discuss some relevant points that are presented here. The district has historically seen a 99% property tax collection rate, which was assumed to continue. The evidence-based funding was projected to remain flat, and that has occurred through the course of this fiscal year. It was assumed that we would receive 4 mandated categorical payments. As a reminder, our mandated categorical payments are received quarterly or processed quarterly, and that includes reimbursement from the state for various special education grants, as well as regular and special education transportation reimbursement. And lastly, what I want to highlight on this slide of the original budget key assumptions and facts are salaries and benefits expenditures were projected to increase at an average rate of 3.5% for salaries and 4% for benefits. Next slide, please. And so now we will go to a year-to-date overview. So I'll start with a graphic that provides a visual of just how the various COVID relief dollars that have been received to date have been spent by the district. So first, I'll cover the acronyms that you see there at the top of the page so everyone is familiar with them. CARES is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. GEARS is the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. And ESSER 1, ESSER stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. There's a 1 after that because there is another grant that's open right now that is called ESSER 2. So that's why you're seeing that reflected as ESSER 1. All combined, the district has spent and been reimbursed for just over $4.8 million from these funding sources. The large percentage of funding was spent on technology, followed by activities to maintain K-12 services, which that category includes various software and licensing expenditures. So for instance, Zoom, which we're using right now, Seesaw, Freckle, et cetera. Those type of expenditures fall into that category. So if you look there all the way to the right, technology and broadband investments, again, that was the largest chunk of the money at just over 60%. And then those activities to maintain K-12 services was the next largest chunk of funds at just over 17%. Next slide, please. Can you go back one, John? Because there's a slide that has dollar, there we go. Okay, so that graphic provides the same information as the previous one, but you'll note there are dollar amounts reflected there. So for instance, that $60 million, or not $60 million, the 60% that you saw reflected for technology expenditures on the previous slide, you can see the dollar amount translates to reflected there on this side. So just wanted to give some dollar amounts along with the percentages so you can see exactly how that translates as part of the $4.8 million that we've received. Next slide. And so now let's talk about the key updates when comparing the original budget to the amended budget. So as for revenues, our Title I and COVID relief funds increased about $2.3 million when comparing the two versions of the budget. That forecast increased. But our National School Lunch Program revenues decreased about $2.7 million. So the reason for that decrease with National School Lunch Program revenue is basically due to us serving less meals. So through this year, this school year, we've been serving about a quarter of the meals that we serve during a normal attendance year. So that's the reason for that variance. And I just wanted to point out those two because those are some pretty high dollar amounts. So just wanted to provide those two as comparison between original budget and amended budget. Our evidence-based funding, again, has remained stable and the state has been making those payments consistently. Surprisingly, the mandated categorical quarterly payments, the state has been keeping up with those as well. They've been remarkably timely with processing those requests. I remember back presenting the budget in September, there was a lot of uncertainty about what was going on, if those payments would be received in a timely fashion, but the state has been able to pay us not exactly on time, but they're not that far behind. They're about 30 days behind right now, which is great for the state of Illinois to be that on time with payments, even though they're late. I think I read an article just a couple weeks ago that the state is at the lowest backlog of bills since maybe 2014 or 2015. So they're kind of cutting into that backlog of bills, which is the reason why schools have been getting their mandated categorical payments in a timely fashion. As far as expenditures, our salary estimates decreased based on various personnel needs. So when looking at the original budget versus the amended budget, the salary forecast is lower for that amended budget. For purchase services, supplies, and equipment, those forecasts are all higher when compared with the original budget, and that aligns to the additional federal dollars that we received for our COVID relief spending. And then the largest change to the forecast is probably our transportation costs, which those are forecast to be about 4.4 million less than the original budget. So if you recall, when the budget was presented in September, that the transportation costs were based on full year of transportation services, which of course we have not had. So that is the reason for that decrease in the forecast for transportation costs. Next slide, please. And so I will review the amended budget at this point. So amended budget overview, this budget is balanced as was the original budget, which again means that our revenues exceed our expenditures. The estimated activity across all funds results in an estimated surplus of nearly $3.3 million. That dollar amount is about $2.5 million more than the original forecast. So you'll see here that the estimated revenue is just about $169 million, and then our estimated expenditures are about $165.7 million to get that surplus of just around $3.3 million. The estimated activity of just the educational, operations and maintenance, transportation, and IMRF funds is forecast to result in a surplus of just over $4.9 million. That is about $2.6 million more than originally forecast. A big component in that increase is the reduced transportation costs. Since we stayed remote for such a large portion of the year, and right now we're running a significantly less portion of buses than we normally run. And also the budget booklet, the amended budget booklet that you have, there's more details on a fund by fund basis available there in that amended budget booklet for your review. Okay, next slide, please. This slide is estimated results of activity by fund presented here. So we are projecting surpluses in the 4 funds presented here with a total surplus again of just over $4.9 million. The largest surplus is reflected in the transportation fund. And just a kind of a sneak peek of what the budget will look like in August. This surplus that we're projecting for this year will help us get through next year's budget cycle. So the transportation expenditures are reimbursed by the state. So the categorical payments we receive next year will be based on our actual spending this year. And because our transportation expenditures have been dramatically reduced for this fiscal year, that will be reflected in the projected revenue for next year. So that's, again, just a little preview of what to expect when you see the tentative budget presented in August. So that large surplus in the transportation fund likely won't be there for next year, but that is going to help us remain in a healthy position next year as we move forward and get back to a sense of normalcy with our students being back on site and with transportation expenses being more normalized. Next slide, please. And this is a visual representation of revenues by source. So our revenues, we are 66% state funded, 23% local funded, and then just about 11% federally funded. So I've mentioned in the past, but I'll mention again that we are pretty much opposite of the average district in the state. Most districts on average are about 23 or 24% state funded and 66, 67% local funded. The federal tends to remain around 9 or 10% for most districts that receive federal funding. But as far as our state to local, that ratio, we're opposite what the average is for the state. Next slide, please. And then this slide is a visual representation of our expenditures by object. So if you look there, as always, our salaries and benefits are the largest portion of the budget. So that combined is about 71% of the total budget, with purchase services making up the next largest share at 15%, followed by supplies, which includes our curriculum materials, custodial and ground supplies, as well as utilities. And that makes up a total of about 10% of the budget. And then the smaller portions there will round out to 100% for our expenditures. Next slide, please. And so now the timeline for this, notice of availability of the budget for public inspection will be placed in the newspaper tomorrow on May 5th. We will have the public hearing during the board meeting on June 9th. And then the budget will be submitted to ISB as well as the Regional Office of Education prior to the June 30th deadline. One thing that I forgot to talk about during the update, this fiscal year update, the storm damage claim, just quickly to review that, and then I'll open it up for questions. So our total spend to date on that storm damage claim that we had in May of last year, total spend to date is about $760,000. All but about $20,000 has been reimbursed by the insurance company. So, and that $25,000, that's just the money that the district would have to pay, or district is responsible for, because of our deductibles. But other than that, everything has been reimbursed by the insurance company. We've already received the checks, so there's nothing outstanding there. So, and that is it. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
I do have a question. Can you guys hear
Yes.
me? We have 2.9 almost on the technology part of this, but it seems like we're having a lot of problems with the hookup, you know, the Zoom and everything from the schools out to the parents. There's been a lot of problems with that lately. And I'm just curious where this 2.9 million is going. Are we going to upgrade our computer capability, maybe get more broadband width or something? I mean, because something needs to be done, because we're dropping a lot during the day.
I'd like to ask John to unmute if he could to respond to that question.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. So to answer your question, we have experienced some internet slowness over the last few weeks. It has been increasingly bad. We've identified the problem. We have a bottleneck at our firewall. All of our traffic flow is video related, video conferencing, and very heavily video related. That takes up a lot of data. So we've been looking at it every day. We've been making adjustments as we go. We are now looking at needing to probably advance our timeline on replacing our firewall to be able to process the traffic that goes through that.
I mean, it probably won't be as bad in the fall if perhaps we're all back in school like normal. But when you have every single teacher in the district trying to stream their YouTube math projects or whatever they're doing, I mean, because, you know, I'm a parent at home with my son doing this stuff, so I'm always experiencing it. So, I mean, wait in the weeds and attack, but it's just something I saw. When I saw that in the budget, I thought, you know, where's this money going?
So that grant money was spent on student broadband primarily, and student devices and student hotspots.
Okay.
We are aware that the internet issues can be very, very frustrating for teachers, for students, for families, and we're working on that so that we can resolve that as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Do you anticipate though that if we're back to school, it wouldn't be that much of a problem anymore?
We would anticipate that if we were not in, if everybody was back on campus, we would not have the same issue.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I just have a couple real quick ones to that point of where the money's being spent for technology. Tamara, help me, but I believe there may be some flexibility, but that money comes into the district and is dictated by bucket, right? Or mandated, this is where you'll spend it to a certain extent.
For the round of money that's reported here in this presentation, no, we had flexibility to spend it where we need it. The other round of money that's coming up, there is a requirement to spend 20% of that on interrupted learning, learning loss, interrupted learning, the phrases that people are using. So we will have to allocate a portion of those dollars, but the money that came in already, there we had flexibility to spend it where we needed to spend it.
Okay. But going forward, there's no, I guess where I'm heading is no bricks and mortar. We had that conversation before. None of those types of things that we'd have flexibility for.
We do actually with the American Rescue Plan money. That is another grant that we will have access to be able to write for after July 1st. And we will be able to look at doing some HVAC things. It would have to be things related to reopening the school safely and things that would help with social distancing, indoor air quality improvement, things like that. So would we be able to put a roof on a building? No. But would we be able to take a look at HVAC systems in that if making improvements or upgrades to them would improve indoor air quality, then we could absolutely do that.
Yeah, and that's where I was heading is how would that relate to a future facilities plan? I guess is where I was heading with it.
Right, yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing on that storm damage real quick,
Mhm.
I understand the $20,000, but is the actual work totally completed now, right? There's no actual...
I believe all of the work is completed. I will double check that and make sure that all of the punch list items are done, but I believe that all of the work is completed. We've had our architect involved from the start, so they were the ones staying on top of the restoration company to make sure that everything was getting done. But I think the last time we paid an invoice was a couple months ago. So I'm 99% sure that all work is completed, but I will definitely double check.
Okay, fantastic. And I have to tell you, just while I'm making comments, 37 years for your team is just amazing. To get the award, period, is amazing. To do it 37 years consecutively, that's got to be unheard of, some type of record. So congratulations to you and every single person in your staff. That's fantastic. Great.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to recognize them. And this team is, we've been together for not most of us. Some of us have been together the full 5 years that I've been in the district. And then we've had some added later on, but they are all amazing. They're all very good at what they do. So the team that was on board before I started all did an excellent job. So they laid that foundation and laid the groundwork. And then we came in, picked up the torch, and kept running with it. So I'm definitely grateful to have them all on board. They're awesome to work with.
Kudos to you, folks. Congratulations. That's just amazing.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments?
I'd like to double down on that. Congratulations. Amazing.
I have a question. President Biden has indicated that he wants to do more with preschool. Currently, we have a select number of students in our area that are at Marycrest that have those services available. Will we be getting more money to build a new preschool or to change over a facility to do that? Say, for example, if everybody in the area is available, 3 and 4 year olds, Marycrest can't handle all of those students. Would we be looking at building a new facility or changing another facility over?
Dr. Rouse, would you like to take that one?
Now, come on. At this stage of the game, Inspector Zeke, we have no land on which to build a new facility. And land large enough plot for a new facility. Actually, at this point, I'm not certain actually exists within the confines of our district boundaries. Will there be a movement to have everybody that's a 3 and 4 year old have access to preschool? Possibly. That would not just be on public school systems, though. There are plenty of other environments that would include preschool opportunities. Could we potentially down the road see an expansion of our preschool opportunities? Yes. That might look like us having them spread across the district again, as opposed to in one spot. Or if we have another building that we could repurpose to another preschool, that might be a possibility as well. But right now, there's no plan in the works because until, we can hear politicians talk about plans, but until the plans actually come to fruition and then the money follow them down the path, we'll keep an eye and continue to make certain our Marycrest program stays in their gold standard that they have been, so that we can replicate that work if we're able to add more. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
All righty. Again, I want to echo everyone's congratulations to you and your team. Ms. Mitchell, thank you so much. My only question is, so I'm assuming, or I would hope that we would see you again soon when we start talking about ESSER 3 and the ARP money. Is there anything that you want us to be thinking about or reading about between now and the next time we see it at a committee meeting?
There, with the ESSER 3 and American Recovery Plan money, there is a requirement that we do some dialogue with not a lot, but with more stakeholders than just us. So there definitely will be conversation for sure.
Okay. All right. We'll make a point to participate in that. Cool. Any other board comments?
Thank you, Tamara, for a job well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, and I would just like to echo the thank yous of the entire department. Tamara's done a great job in leading the group. The whole 5 years I've been here, it was great coming on with her together as new to the district, and she's moved the business department forward in a lot of great ways. And it's a fabulous staff. So if they're listening, kudos to them as well. If not, Tamara, you can share that with them tomorrow. But really fabulous crew, always positive, always helpful, and always willing to help go the extra mile for any staff member who needs assistance with their benefits, with payroll, with any questions that they have. So, and that I think speaks highly of your leadership, Tamara, and setting that positive environment for them within which to work. So thank you very much. And I've learned so much about Illinois finances under your tutelage, coming from another state where things happen very differently. It's been great to learn the finances here in Illinois and see some of the fun shell games that happen, but we managed to make it through, and 37 years of an award is a truly great thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to express my thanks to you for being able to come in, take leadership over, and
I think you're muted now.
Deb, we lost your sound.
continuing in that vein. Really appreciate it.
We lost some of that, Deb, but I felt the congratulations. I felt it. It was there.
Yes, thank you.
I was just saying that it was a legacy. 37 years, we've managed to maintain that excellence. So, kudos to you and thanks to everybody that has started that work and continued it. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Inspector Doris,
Yes.
Inspector Doris, you need an opportunity for visitors to
Oh,
speak.
I'm so sorry. We need an opportunity for visitors to speak. Do we have any? I actually have a script. Reading of public comments is limited to 3 minutes per comment. During the committee meeting, the time limit for public comments is limited to 12 minutes. The full board policy is found on page 2, found in policy 230. Sandy, is there anyone who would like to address the board?
Hi, Mr. Doris. No, we did not receive any messages tonight.
Fantastic. Seeing none, I will take a motion now to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Stephanie, will you call the roll?
Yes, Inspector Pritz,
Aye.
Inspector Almer,
Aye.
Inspector Doris.
Aye. Fantastic. We'll see you all at the board meeting at 7.
See you guys.